All right. Hello and welcome, everyone. Thanks so much for joining the LoCITT webinar. I'm just going to share some opening slides. There we go. All right. So thanks everyone so much for joining. We'll let more folks filter in, but we wanted to get right to it. This is the long COVID treatment trial Tirzepatide or LoCITT-T webinar. We are very excited to have you all here, and we have a packed agenda of speakers, and then we will take Q&A. We will be talking about opening remarks, how to enroll, the different ways that we support the clinicians support participants, the different data types we're selecting, as well as data analysis and participant experience. So I want to hand it over now to, oops, I accidentally clicked on the study link. We'll put all the links in the chat. I want to hand it over now to Dr. Eric Topol and Dr. John Redd to give some opening remarks. Eric, do you want to start us off?
Yes, thanks, Julia. It's great to be part of this webinar. This is what I would say is historic in the medical world because it took 5 years of COVID to get to this point, and over a year of planning this trial and getting it to the point of enrollment. So, as everyone knows, we don't have a validated treatment for long COVID, and we desperately needed that. I first learned about long COVID through Julia, who has suffered this over the years. And that, of course, was reinforced by millions of people around the world. But despite all that time, we've not had a treatment. And as we comb the literature and all the new things about the different drugs out there, we felt that tirzepatide, also known as Mounjaro or Zepbound, was the most likely candidate to make a difference. So what did that mean? Well, we first had to find a funding entity, and thank goodness we found John Redd and the Schmidt Initiative for Long COVID. They got behind us and they were very patient as we then had to get the drug from Eli Lilly, and that's without any financial support. That's just getting us drug and placebo for the 1,000 participants and helping us get the drug to everyone. And we also are dealing with a couple of weeks delay that we didn't anticipate, but we'll get through that. After waiting 5 years, 2 weeks is no problem, right? And then we had to deal with the FDA. That took many months. That dealt with the top people at FDA. And then we had to deal with the Scripps IRB. There hasn't been any easy part of this. We're very lucky. We have a great team that has been assembled at Scripps Research. We have our tech partner with Care Evolution, with Vic and his colleagues, that's made this a user-friendly app experience, we hope. And so we're off to the races now, finally, to get 1,000 people enrolled quickly, get them the drug, follow them up, and make this all at home. So just to give you a framing of what the significance is, there has not been a large trial of long COVID. Most of these trials are 50, 20 people, maybe 100, and there's only a few that have ever gone beyond 100 participants. The most recent one is colchicine with a few hundred, and that was a negative trial. So we're hoping that this large trial, which is necessary to have an adequate sample to see meaningful benefit, will be helpful. And the other thing is the trials need to be at home. And this is a big deal because these long COVID studies previously have been requiring clinic visits and all sorts of lab testing and whatnot. And we have built this so it is a friendly, convenient for people who aren't able to be going to clinics and all these other major hassles, which is not in keeping when you're suffering. So that's the background. Let me turn over to John Redd. We are so lucky to have Silk and John's leadership and his team to have been standing by us all this time. And there were a couple of times when the plug was almost pulled, but somehow we got through it. So over to you, John.
Yeah, thanks very much, Eric. And thanks for the introduction. So everyone, my name's Dr. John Redd. I'm an internist and a medical epidemiologist, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Schmidt Initiative for Long COVID. We're a global effort to improve clinical care for long COVID patients worldwide. And I'm absolutely delighted to be helping introduce this webinar. We are just thrilled about this study. And you're right, it's been a long path, but we stand together with patients all over the world who are suffering with long COVID, and we are thrilled to introduce this study for many reasons. First of all, as you alluded to, the need is absolutely great. And with Silk, my institution, we work all over the world, and we have found long COVID literally everywhere that we've looked. And there is absolutely no question that patients have been suffering, and we have been all searching diligently, and it has seemed like a long time, but we are still moving forward to try to find effective treatments for patients. There are a couple of reasons why this study is so interesting to us, and we hope will be successful for patients. The first, as Eric mentioned, is the therapeutic, is the drug. And we are really fascinated and interested and very eager to try tirzepatide. But the other aspect that I can already see is coming up in the chat is just how novel and forward-looking and innovative this study design is. And we are so happy that we were able to support a study that actually gets the therapeutic, gets the drug to the patients. We view this kind of trial as the future of development for therapeutics for long COVID. The need is great. We are thrilled to be part of it, and we are just delighted to be joining with you all. And I look forward to questions. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, John. All right, we are going to move back to the slides, and we are going to have Lena give us an overview of the study and how to enroll.
Thank you, Julia. Hi, everyone. I'm Lena, Communications Project Manager at Scripps Research and part of the LoCITT study team. I'm very excited to share with all of you what we've been working on. Next slide, please. The Long COVID Treatment Trial, or LoCITT, is a series of digital clinical trials designed to help find treatments for long COVID, which is affecting over 400 million people worldwide. Our first study, the Long COVID Treatment Trial-Tirzepatide, or LoCITT-T, is now enrolling participants across the United States, including Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. Hawaii is the only exception, and this is due to shipping timelines. In this study, we're testing whether a medication called tirzepatide can help improve long COVID symptoms. Some participants will receive the medication and others a placebo. This comparison is key to knowing if the medication truly works and is safe, and it's the kind of evidence doctors need to prescribe new treatments. Our goal is for LoCITT to be as accessible and inclusive as possible. Because it's fully remote, people can take part from home or wherever they are, and we'll return personalized information whenever we can. Digital access helps to remove many barriers for participation, which is really important to us, as we want to center the experience around the participant. We're working with the urgency that long COVID deserves, and we hope to expand to other infection-associated chronic conditions in the future whenever we can. Next slide, please. Our work is guided by a core principle, doing what's best for people with long COVID. We value the expertise that comes with lived experience, and this is why we continue to partner with patients at every stage of our work. We'll include as many people as possible and share information back whenever we can. At the same time, it's essential that we're meeting the medical community's data standards. That's the best way to ensure the results will be meaningful and taken up by the medical community if we meet our endpoints. LoCITT-T is a randomized, double-blinded, placebo-controlled trial, meaning both the participant and the study team won't know who's receiving the study medication or the placebo. And this approach helps to maintain the integrity of the study and ensures that all improvements we see are really due to the medication itself. Next slide, please. A big part of LoCITT is focusing on participants first, and again, making participation as accessible as possible. For example, participants can complete all study activities from wherever they are entirely through the My Data Helps app. We've worked to minimize participant burden wherever we can, and this is guided by feedback that we receive from people with lived experience. Our first two user testers are living with very severe long COVID, and their input was incredibly helpful to improve the experience for everyone. Another way we focus on participants is that we recognize that communication needs can vary from person to person. Participants can connect with the study team in a way that's best for them through video calls, communication via email, and we'll also have a 24/7 phone line for anything that's time sensitive. We'll provide a letter that participants can share with their healthcare provider and welcome caregivers to support and collaborate with participants throughout the study. Next slide, please. Okay, so our first study, the LoCITT, the long COVID treatment trial Tirzepatide, or LoCITT-T, is testing a medication called tirzepatide, also known as Zepbound or Mounjaro, to see if it can help relieve symptoms of long COVID. This study will last 12 months and include 1,000 participants from across the US. Again, because it's fully remote, people can participate from home or wherever they are. Participants will be asked to complete surveys and follow medication schedule in the My Data Helps app. We'll also ask participants to take the study medication or placebo that's mailed directly to them. Through the My Data Helps app, participants will also be able to log their doses, share updates on any symptoms, provide their weight and wearable data. A small cohort of participants will also be asked to complete at-home blood sample collections using the mailed kits and to send their samples back. Participants will receive a smart scale and a wearable activity tracker or a Garmin. Both of these devices may be kept after the study is complete. Participants can also receive Amazon gift cards for completing study activities and at-home blood sample collections. Every participant's time and energy can help us learn whether tirzepatide can make a difference for people with long COVID. Next slide, please. Okay, so if you are interested in participating in the long COVID treatment trial Tirzepatide or LoCITT-T, enrollment is open right now for people across the United States, including Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. Hawaii, again, is the only exception, and this is due to the shipping timelines. To get started, you can scan the QR code on your screen. That'll take you to our study website where you can click on the Get Started button to see if you're eligible. Again, thank you for being here today. Thank you for your continued support in helping to advance long COVID research. I'll hand it back to Julia. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lena. Thanks everyone for bearing with me with the slides. Of course, they worked every time I practiced and not today. So I just wanted to introduce to you the study team that's behind the study, many of whom you'll meet today. You already met Eric, who's one of the co-principal investigators, and me, and then Vic Ketterpal, who Eric mentioned is at Carevolution, is another co-principal investigator with us. The medication management MDs are going to be Steve Steinhebel and Evan Muse, both of whom we've worked with for many years and have worked on other remote studies and are going to be really focused on making sure that the dosing and whatever we need is tailored to the individual participant. We also have an excellent data safety monitoring board. We sometimes abbreviate this as DSMB. These folks are an independent team that reviews the safety data to make sure that we are, adequately managing risks for participants, and they can make the decision to end the study early, whether it's because of increased risk or because the drug is so effective that it's, something that we want to get out to the broader public. So we are really grateful to them. We're not able to say who they are during the study, but we will let you know afterward. And I'm absolutely thrilled about the skill level of the people that we have and their familiarity with long COVID and ME/CFS. The broader study team is here. We have the clinical research operations team. These are the folks that are going to be interfacing directly with participants on a day-to-day basis. Many of you probably have already talked to many of them. And Romina Foster-Bonds, who leads this team, is going to talk a little bit later about the clinical interface as well as data collection for wearable sensors and biosamples. For products and outreach, you already met Lena, and Mario Duff is also here. They have worked together to lead both the creation of the participant experience in collaboration with Carevolution and all of the outreach materials that you have seen, including this webinar, would not have happened without Lena making it happen. The data science team is going to be responsible for analyzing all of the data, evaluating both the primary outcomes as well as exploratory ones, and importantly, subgroup analyses. And Jana's here today, and we'll talk more about the work that they're going to do. We also just wanted to mention all the partners that it takes to bring this together. We mentioned Carevolution. Adachi is our kitting and distribution partner, so they will be sending the wearables and the biosample collection kits to participants. Garmin is providing the wrist-worn wearables, and Your Bio is helping with the biosample collection. We will be doing biospecimen testing in collaboration with Olink and Infinity Bio. And of course, we mentioned Silk providing funding and Eli Lilly providing the study medicine. So I'm going to hand it over now to Romina to talk about clinical support.
All right. Hello. I am Romina and I lead clinical research operations. I think Lena spoke about this before, but while the trial is fully remote, we do offer many opportunities to connect with our participants in a way that is custom and, of course, minimizes the burden for participation. So at any given time during the trial, a participant can email, call, or send a notification to us through the study application. We have a team of study nurses that you saw that will assess your question, bring in our study doctors if needed, and aim to get back to you within 1 business day. We ask to schedule a video call to go through the instructions for how to administer the medication once you receive your medication kit and answer any study questions that you may have. We check in weekly to see if you have side effects and monitor your weight, and this is all done securely through the study app. And at a monthly cadence, we check on your mental health, if there are any changes in pregnancy status or medications prior to releasing your next prescription. Next slide. There we go. All adverse events can be submitted through the study app, through email, or through a phone call. And we receive this and are able to triage, check in with the study doctor, and follow up with you directly to collect any additional information that we need to assess what is happening. And a little reminder of what an adverse event is. It is any unfavorable medical occurrence in a participant. So this includes any abnormal sign, symptom, or disease, and this is temporally associated with your participation in the research, regardless of whether it is related to your participation in the research. Next slide. So all adverse events, as Julia spoke to earlier, are reviewed by our clinical team. This includes our study nurses and doctors, and as well as our data and safety monitoring board, which is composed of clinicians and researchers that specialize in long COVID. And lastly, in order to maintain continuity of care, when a participant contacts our study team, they are paired with the study nurse that they spoke with, and that study nurse will remain their main point of contact for the duration of their participation. Next slide. All right, next is the biosensor and biosample data. So all participants will receive a device kit, which includes a smart scale and a Garmin wearable. With our previous studies on the use of wearables in long COVID, we believe this may provide a return of value, empowering participants with information in their daily lives, all while we track physiologic data that can complement the patient-reported survey data that we're collecting during the trial. For biosample data, we will select a small group of 50 participants for exploratory biomarker analysis. These participants will have a biosample kit sent into their home and be instructed to use a virtually painless blood collection device from Your Bio to collect the study samples. Biomarker results will be correlated with our patient surveys, And hopefully that would allow us to start understanding any biological mechanisms associated with long COVID and treatment progression during the trial. Thank you.
All right, Mario, up next, we'll talk about the participant experience.
Hello, everyone. I am Mario Duff. I am Associate Director of Product and Outreach. We can go ahead to the next slide. So what you see here on the bottom is the typical approach to clinical trials. And what we aim to do is bring participation directly to making it more accessible to participants. So we provide a digital access every step of the way and really try to minimize participant burden. And this is especially important for our long COVID patients. You can go to the next slide. So in terms of the participant experience, we have a study app, which is built on a platform. So our partner, Cure Evolution, has an app called My Data Helps. My Data Helps is cloud native, secure, and used for a number of studies, some of which you may be familiar with. The NIH's Recover mobile health platform, as well as the clinical trials that run on that, as well as the All of Us research program, of which our center is a awardee. Next slide. So what my team does is we really look at the study app capabilities and try to maximize those capabilities to make it really easy for our study participants to navigate. So the mobile app is designed to allow you to complete your activities on your own time at your own pace. You receive reminders to take your dose, to wear your activity tracker, as well as do weekly and monthly check-ins. Next slide. In terms of onboarding steps, again, all of this is done either via the web or directly in the study app. You'll complete your screening survey. Eligible participants will receive the project invite via email. You'll complete consent. After that, there's a series of onboarding surveys that you can complete, all within the study app on your mobile device, if you so choose, or on the web app if you desire. Then you will order the devices kit, which includes the biosensor as well as your what we call remote blood sample collection. And from there, you'll order the study drug. After that, the prescriber will approve the prescription, and that is sent in the mail directly to you. And that is something that you'll be able to coordinate with our distribution partner directly. So some of you may have questions about how all of that works. That should be addressed in our FAQs. But just so that you're aware, you'll talk to the distribution partner directly and let them know where you'll be at that time. And then you'll confirm receipt of the study drug and then select your treatment start date. And just of note, it must be taken on the same day, thereabouts, plus or minus a couple of days, same day of the week. Next slide. Something else that's really unique to the participant experience on the My Data Helps app, there is a capability to connect your health records. In doing so, it allows you to visualize those health records. We also are providing a lot of study resources and helpful information in the study app directly. And then in terms of helping us to further better the experience, we do have a user experience tester sign up on our website, longcovid.scripps.edu. So if that's something you're interested in making the experience better for all participants, you're welcome to sign up. And I'll turn it over to Yana.
Okay, thank you. My name is Yana. I lead the data science efforts for this trial, and I'm excited to tell you a little bit more about the data we're collecting and the analysis that we'll be performing. So, as you heard, the trial consists of an enrollment stage and then 12 months of study participation. So during that time, we are collecting three main types of data. The first are surveys. So those are administered at enrollment, and then a quarterly installment, so month 3, 6, 9, and 12. There's the Garmin biosensor that collects data continuously as long as it is being worn. So that includes steps, sleep, heart rate. And then for a select subset of participants, a blood sample is taken, and that happens at enrollment, month 6 and month 12. So there's a lot of data that we are collecting during the study. Next slide, please. But what is common in a clinical trial is that you declare a primary focus, so primary outcome. In our case, that is the fatigue severity score. This is a survey measure. And we're using this because it's well validated in prior work, specifically with long COVID patients. And it's also the most sensitive measure that we could find, which is important because we're looking at changes over time and between groups. So when we have the data, what we're doing is we're taking the survey measure, this fatigue score, and we're comparing scores between the treatment group and the control group. And we're looking at differences at the participant level between scores at month 12 in the study compared to enrollment or baseline. Next slide. 12 months is obviously a very long time frame, and we're mindful of the urgency of finding effective treatments for long COVID. So what we're also doing in this trial is an interim analysis at month 3. So this is a comparison exactly the same way I just described, but instead of taking values at month 12, we're looking at values at month 3 and comparing those against values at baseline. And with our IRB and our safety monitoring board, we have agreed early stopping rules if the data suggests that the drug has high efficacy. Next slide, please. So besides that primary outcome, and because we're collecting lots of other important data, there's additional analyses that we will be doing. These are called kind of our secondary outcomes and exploratory outcomes. So a couple of the types of questions that we will be looking at are first, how aligned is step count data from biosensors with self-reported fatigue that we collect through surveys? Can you go back, Julia? Thank you. Thank you. Second question is looking at protein counts in blood of participants that are on the drug and comparing those to those values to participants that are on the placebo. This gets us towards identifying biomarkers, which is a really important research question. And then finally, we're very, very interested in looking at effects at the participant subgroup level. So long COVID is, there's a lot of different symptoms that fall under the umbrella of long COVID, and people also have different manifestations and severity levels of the condition. So we're very keen to look at whether the treatment affects different subgroups of participants in different ways. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. Okay, now it's our Q&A portion. And I am going to, just looking at the number of questions that we've gotten on dosing in particular, I'm going to throw one right out the bat to Dr. Topol in general about dosing, but it looks like there's a lot of questions about microdosing in particular. So would you mind taking that one?
Sure. Well, firstly, we're dealing with a labeled dose of FDA-approved of tirzepatide. And there is mounting evidence that this has potent anti-inflammatory action. And in fact, there's a review paper that just came out in a leading journal of clinical investigation, that goes into all the mechanisms for that. And we'll make that available to everyone through the chat. This idea of microdosing is a nice idea to save costs, to save potential side effects. Nice idea with no data. There's a piece from Stat News yesterday that goes through it, and there are no data published on microdosing. So the only dose that we have any data on are the doses that are approved, which have been studied in large trials and now tens of thousands of participants. So it's easy to start with the dose that is known to work and has a potent anti-inflammatory action. And by the way, about 10% of people don't really lose weight with tirzepatide at any weight, but they have marked evidence of benefit clinically, whether it's heart benefit, anti-inflammatory metrics. So we know a dose that works. That's the key point. That's why we're starting with tirzepatide at the regular dose. And of course, trying to increase it as tolerated. Most of the side effects that are gastrointestinal, they're interesting, they go away. They go away after a couple of weeks, which is fascinating. We still don't know why. This is the first major drug class where the side effects go away, but the efficacy never goes away. So it's really interesting. So weathering through the first couple of weeks at the lowest dose is a really good thing because then the benefits will continue to be manifest, hopefully in this case, of decreasing inflammation being the primary theoretical mechanism for why there would be benefit in people with long COVID.
Thank you, Dr. Topol. Another one that is coming up quite a bit is around the lack of crossover. And I think I'm going to punt that one to you, Julia.
Yeah, so there were many compromises that we made in designing of the study, many things that we tried to do that were just not possible because we were prioritizing different aspects like sample size and accessibility. So crossover is one of those things that we talked about, we really tried to do, but it just was not possible in this particular study. However, we hope that if the trial is effective, that we can move toward getting insurance to cover the drug for long COVID. That's the whole, end game. And so we would hope that people are able to access it if it ends up being effective. And one last thing I want to say before I hand it back to Mario is I think this is the highest question to attendee ratio I've ever seen. So I love how engaged you all are, and there are so many excellent questions coming through. So keep them coming, and we will post answers to the ones that we don't get to on the website, along with the recording and the transcript after this.
We did get a couple about muscle loss. So I'm going to throw that one out there, and whoever wants to answer it, chime in.
I'm happy to respond on that because all the data suggests that if you engage in resistance training, strength training while you're taking the drug, the muscle loss is minimized and minimal. So most of the muscle loss is just a weight loss, which if you didn't take the drug, if you just went on a weight loss campaign, you'd lose muscle as well. So it's not specific to the drug itself. And it's countered by resistance training. So it's really encouraged that people who are not into that in their normal exercise routine, they get into that while being on the study drug.
Yeah, and I want to add, we've talked to a couple of clinicians that have prescribed this drug for other reasons for people who are specifically trying to lose weight, and they find that the muscle loss is really not an issue until you get above like 7.5 or 10 milligram doses. And so the folks at the lower doses, if you really can't do the strength training, which obviously many of us can't, at the lower doses, the evidence is that it's not an issue quite yet. Of course, we're all deconditioning and it's going to be involved with that, but hopefully it's a minimal issue, and it's another thing that we'll learn about through the trial.
Thank you, Julia. Okay, I'm going through. We do have a question for just explaining what our early stopping rule protocol is. So Julia, I don't know if that's you, if you want to take that.
Yana, do you want to?
Yeah.
I'm happy either way.
Go ahead.
So the idea with the early stopping rule is, what I had sort of alluded to at the beginning, that if the drug is so effective that it's unethical to continue to have people on placebo, we would stop early and release the results. Or if the drug happens to be unsafe, for example, we're seeing an increase in dangerous side effects that did not appear in the population that was taking this drug before, that would be another reason to consider stopping. So it's really just sort of looking at the edge cases. These are not the defaults that we expect, although obviously we would be thrilled if the drug turned out to be extremely effective. But it's just guardrails to have in place to make sure that we are, protecting participants the way that we should and, maintaining the ethics that is expected in a study like this.
Thank you, Julia. And I do have one for you, Yana, I think. Are there any opportunities for data linkage with other long COVID research efforts like Recover?
Oh, that's a great question. We have not accounted for that in this trial. So the trial is self-encompassing. So we have specified clearly, okay, these are the different data sources, and we're collecting that and through the channels that we described, and that based on all our prior work so far, we feel confident that that would be sufficient. But I think it's definitely an interesting question to pull in other data sources, and specifically for Recover, some of that data is open source, and we are looking at that in kind of other research efforts as part of our long COVID agenda. So.
Yeah, I'll just add to that specifically on the GLP-1 receptor agonist piece. We are comparing notes with Recover, and they are, very interested in our study since we are, now launched and they're in the very early planning stages. And so we're going to be sharing lessons learned and, adverse event rates and that sort of thing. We'll be comparing notes. We would love to collaborate more fully if that came to be, but it hasn't come to be quite yet.
Thank you. Here's another one I think is good for you, Yana. Will we be accounting for seasonal changes in symptoms in our analyses? And I can give an example based on the question. The participant lives with COVID-triggered ME/CFS and become more moderately impaired in the fall-winter timeframe. So their surveys may suggest that their fatigue is getting worse, even if they're getting relative relief in general for the time of year. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and Julia, it would be great if you can add to this from your lived experience as well. So I think the concern is that at the time of enrollment, if that happens at a period of seasonal change, that may skew the data, or that may skew our baseline numbers. I think because we have what we are assuming is that if the treatment is effective, it will show up despite that over the full course of the study duration. And that is also why we have designed this study to span 12 months. And we are having participants take the drug for a long period of time. So based on the prior evidence, we feel confident that that is not going to affect the final results. One thing that's also beneficial for our trial design is that we do have participants. The participant recruitment happens on a rolling basis. So if there is that seasonal effect, but we have a wide enough enrollment window that we can also pick that up in the data, and that we have participants who are less affected by that because they enrolled at they started, or their baseline values happen at a different time in the season.
Well, I mean,
I'm
the main
hoping,
thing is
go
we
ahead.
have a placebo group
Right.
that's the key. Yeah.
Yeah, so if there are, very subgroup levels of this sort of seasonal change, then we wouldn't detect it. But if it's a broad effect, then yes, we'll see it in the placebo group. The other thing I want to mention is that since it's US-centric, we're all experiencing the same seasons at the same time, although of course it's different in different states. At least we don't have northern and southern hemisphere, sort of involving the data. But I think the placebo group will absolutely take care of that.
Thank you. This one is, I'm going to throw this to Romina. Will we eventually be notified if we've been in the placebo group at the end of the study? I don't think we covered it.
I think that's not a question for me, though.
Sorry.
Yes, we will unblind at the end of the study.
Perfect. Okay. And
Should we talk about subgroup analyses?
say it again.
Do you want to talk about subgroup analyses?
Go for it.
Yana, do you want to take it or do you want me to?
I think from a lived experience perspective, it's great if you
Okay.
could
Sure,
open it.
yeah. So, one of the things that we have been watching the whole field on is that there have been a lot of failed trials. And as Eric mentioned, the sample sizes were relatively small, and they were really too small to power solid subgroup analyses. So that's one of the things that we really designed for, was knowing that, the drug might affect people with ME/CFS versus POTS versus MCAS differently. And so we are making sure to ask about all the different symptoms people are experiencing, comorbidities that they have, and we do plan to do subgroup analyses based on those. We will also be doing subgroup analyses by demographic, just in case there's a race and ethnicity, for example, type effect or a gender-specific effect. So we're going to be exploring all of these. It's not the primary endpoint, so we might not have definitive evidence, but certainly enough to suggest, what should be done in the next trial so that the drug can get labeled in a specific way.
I would just add that we couldn't do these subgroups if it wasn't for John Redd and Silk and their commitment to the science. So we're really indebted to John for all that.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. And I do want to say that this innovative design is going to enable that type of analysis. So we're really happy that we'll be able to have this number of treatment and placebo patients in the trial. And we're very hopeful that, as opposed to other trials, which unfortunately have not been able to do that kind of analysis, that we will be able to have enough patients in different groups, as Julia mentioned, to look at different categories. So we're very hopeful that this design will facilitate that.
We thank you, John. We are also getting quite a few questions about enrollment eligibility. I don't know if we want to just sum that up really quickly. I'll throw it to the study team, whoever wants to take it.
I can speak to it at a high level. So the main criteria are that you're 18 or older, that you're living in the US. As Lena mentioned, Hawaii unfortunately is excluded, but DC and Puerto Rico are included. That you don't have drug-specific exclusions. So that's things like you're already taking a GLP-1 receptor agonist, or you have some, sort of family history or personal history that would bar you from taking the drug in any case, not just in this trial. You also have to meet a certain threshold of fatigue severity, and that is based on, knowing that you have the thing that we are trying to improve, right? That you have the symptom that we're going to be measuring. And then the last thing is that you cannot have a pre-long COVID diagnosis that would also potentially explain the long COVID symptoms. And so this is something that, we really went back and forth about, but to really focus on long COVID, it was important to be able to say, okay, we have a reasonable suspicion or reasonable evidence to say that long COVID is what is causing these symptoms. The last thing I'll mention is you need to demonstrate that you have long COVID. And so we know that it's very hard to have the actual long COVID diagnosis code. And so things in a doctor's notes like ME/CFS following a COVID infection or POTS following a COVID infection is sufficient. And the study team will work with you on the documentation that you need if the initial thing that you upload is not clear. Also, we have the eligibility survey online. I'm sure we've sent the link, but maybe someone could put it in the chat again. And so that takes like 5 minutes to complete in terms of going through all of the surveys to see if you're eligible. And then there's a step of uploading your medical documentation, after which the team will get back to you after a couple of days. So it's relatively quick to see if you're eligible.
Thank you, Julia. And just a follow on for that, there are a couple of questions about continuing tirzepatide at the end of the trial, finding out if they're on placebo or not. And I believe that's kind of tied to some recent I believe it was a Medicaid decision around whether or not tirzepatide is going to be covered. Do we want to have like a quick sort of, you know, summary conversation around what they can expect at the end of the trial?
Yeah, essentially, we can only support the trial for as long as we're supporting it, and then folks go back to whatever they were doing before. Again, we hope that we generate evidence that allows insurance to be able to cover the medication. We know how hard it is to access, and that a lot of people are, doing it through private pay, which is obviously not accessible for everyone. And so we hope that we can move toward having folks be able to continue it, but we can't support it indefinitely.
Okay. Let's see. Let me go back up to some of the other ones that haven't been answered. We talked about weight loss, I think.
Yeah, maybe I'll mention some people submitted pre-questions asking about, what do they do to counter weight loss? One of the major things is that the drug suppresses your appetite so that you eat fewer calories. So if you are, aware of your diet and can just maintain the diet that you had before, that might be sufficient for you to avoid weight loss. We're also, as Romina mentioned, sending everyone smart scales and having folks weigh in on a weekly basis. So you'll know if you're losing weight. And if your weight gets to, you can always talk to the study team, but certainly if you get to the point where you're getting close to being underweight or you're losing weight at a very rapid rate, we're going to have individual conversations with folks about, what they need, and that can include helping you make plans for your diet to maintain your weight. We have some generic tirzepatide and diet guidance that we can share. So we will be supporting you throughout the process, essentially, is what I want to get to.
Thank you. And there's one that I can take just because I don't see that it was answered. During the overview of the participant experience, I showed that it's possible to connect your health records. It is optional. So it's not something that we're requiring as part of the study. It is, I would say, a value add of the My Data Helps platform in that it does enable you to kind of visualize your medical record in a way that you don't necessarily get in my chart, or certainly not as it's not as intuitive of a UI, in my opinion. So hopefully I answered that part.
I also wanted to take one that came in ahead of time about folks just looking for sort of general long COVID treatment guidance, since you have some experts here. And so I wanted to share a couple papers in the chat that I believe both are open source, that are resources you could take to your physician to help them learn about long COVID if they don't already know, and if you can't access a long COVID clinic, which we know is an issue for a lot of people. Many people asked about, well, what can I do about my long COVID fatigue and brain fog? And, the resources that I just put in the chat are sort of the best that are out there right now. But as Eric mentioned at the top of the seminar, there's not really great solutions out there. And so that's part of what we're hoping to learn through this trial is this one of the options to decrease fatigue and brain fog? And the other thing I want to mention, just because it's near and dear to my heart and our other study focused on it, is pacing for post-exertional malaise. So I'll put some resources in the chat about that as well.
Thank you, Julia. And I'm just kind of going through some of the previously submitted questions myself. I think we have, I don't know that we touched on this, but I will now. How have patients been involved in the design of the study? I think Julia touched on it earlier. We do have people with lived experience, including Julia herself, that have been every step of the way helping to provide feedback on the design of the study. We had early testers that were severe long COVID patients that provided feedback on the study. So every step of the way, we've really tried to be very mindful and more than that, patient-led or participant-led in terms of how the experience is designed.
And I just want to say personally, it's been really nice to see that people are noticing that it is patient-centric. And it's really a joy to be able to collaborate with the patient community more broadly and hope that we can really offset the suffering for as many people as possible. And even if this is not the thing that does it, at least we'll know and people won't waste their money on it anymore. And we'll move on to the next. And, we are, really committed to this and wanting to find a solution for long COVID. As we know, our friends at Silk are, this is just the first, hopefully, of a whole suite of trials.
Thank you. I'm going to take another one that came up in the chat. If we are not selected for the study, can we be informed of results, especially the 3-month and 6-month analysis? So I'm going to throw that out.
Yes, whenever we release results, they will be very broadly shared. So certainly you will be informed. We also have the option for people that are not eligible for this study to sign up for what we're calling a wait list, where we store your information if you'd like, and we let you know about other trials that we launch that you may be eligible for. In particular, if you have some sort of tirzepatide specific exclusion, we would expect you to be eligible for the next long COVID trial. So we absolutely want to keep in touch with you to share the results of this trial and make sure you're up to date about what comes next.
Okay. And this kind of, I don't know if we covered it in our slides. I thought we did, but sharing the percentage of placebo versus treatment.
Yes, half placebo, half treatment. That's the best way to do it for statistical power.
Okay. And Yana, I believe there was one that you wanted to take. Yeah.
Yeah, I was typing, but I think this is about the fatigue severity score. Yeah, so the question is about how to answer this question in conjunction with kind of fatigue and exercise. So if participants should try to take account of how they feel after exercising, or thinking about what they would feel if they how they would feel in terms of their fatigue if they would exercise. So the survey has a couple different questions that ask about fatigue in different contexts. So, for example, fatigue interferes with my work, family, or social life. And it's really meant, and we're asking participants to look back over the past week. So that is it's meant to capture fatigue in the way that you are currently experiencing it, including the level of exercise that you do. So we're not asking you to imagine if you would exercise. We're mindful of the trade-offs with exercise. So and the expectation is also, if, for example, the treatment is effective and you might do more exercise, that we kind of take that whole package. So the survey is designed to kind of account for that, if that makes sense.
Thank you. And I'm just going to circle back to the treatment because we're still getting questions on this. What made us choose tirzepatide? How is it different from other GLP-1s? So I'm going to throw that out there, but I think it's coming to you, Dr. Topol. There you go.
Yeah, no, that's right up my alley. So this is a dual receptor. So it's not just like Ozempic, which is a glucagon-like peptide. Basically, it mimics that hormone. It's a natural gut hormone, but getting much higher quantities. This is also a GIP, which is second receptor, so mimicking a second gut hormone. So the two together are more powerful. Every study shows that tirzepatide is more potent than semaglutide, which is Ozempic. And when I say more potent, we're talking about all the effects, not just weight loss, but we're seeing now heart benefit, liver benefit, kidney, migraine headaches, rheumatoid arthritis, and the list goes on, addiction to all different types of addiction. So it's more potent. There are more potent GLP-1 family drugs coming. There's retiratide, which is a triple receptor. There's a quadruple receptor. There's 10 more gut hormones that are going to be made. Eventually, these will be pills and there'll be combinations. So whatever we have today, which is these two, it's just a beginning. Now, why do we think this drug has so much potential? Not only because it's more potent than Ozempic, But the main thread that is the underpinning of long COVID, we believe, is immune system dysregulation. Whether that's directly in the immune system, whether it's autoimmune, whether it's through the gut microbiome, but this ties a lot of things together. So, for example, POTS, the autonomic dysfunction of postural tachycardia, that's again inflammation of the autonomic nervous system. So this is immune mediated, which sets off all these dysregulated pro-inflammation effects. And that's exactly what tirzepatide is really good at. We don't have another drug that does this. Well, semaglutide, but it's not as potent. So that's the reason, and that's why that review article that was just published goes along with exactly our hypothesis. Now, it's hypothesis. We're in what's called equipoise, which is we don't know it will work. There is, in all the studies that have been done to date on long COVID, there is some benefit on the placebo side too, because just being in a study helps, having contact with people, a network and all that. So we're going to see. But the theory is as good as it gets. So hopefully we'll see a benefit. It's not going to be any 100%, 50% of the people derive benefit. But even if we get to 20 or 25, that's 20 or 25% more than we know right now.
Thank you, Dr. Topol. Well, there's a follow-up question for you. Based on what is known about this drug in other patient populations, are there safety concerns about abruptly going off?
Yeah, it's another good question. So right now, as far as the weight loss, it's considered a forever drug because people, when they get off, they often regain most, if not all, the weight. For other things, we don't know. So any day now, there's going to be 2 Alzheimer's trials, people with mild Alzheimer's who are not overweight, by the way. And so this is another group where it wasn't for weight loss. It was for people who had mild Alzheimer's to try to reduce the progression of their neurodegenerative disease. Now, in that trial, we don't know if it worked. We're going to find out real soon, but the drug is stopped after that. And the question is what happens. So in these other indications, potential indications beyond weight loss, we just don't know about this so-called rebound that you asked about, Marion.
Thank you. And we're just about out of time. I do want to just, I think I can answer this last part, or just real quick, Julie or Yana, one of you can kind of chime in to what Dr. Topol just said. Right now, we're not planning to monitor participants at the close or after the close of the study. Do you guys want to speak to the reasons for that? Anybody, real quick?
We would like to if we can, but we had to draw the line somewhere. So it's an interest, and we are exploring the possibility of extending at least data collection by a month to be able to understand more about what it's like to come off the drug. I also wanted to mention that we made this decision in collaboration with Eli Lilly, and they have run many different trials. And this is what they do when they end their tirzepatide studies. So hopefully it's similar in this population. You want to close this out, Mario? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
That's perfect. Thank you so much. I think we all are very much encouraged by the showing at this webinar and your questions and your interest. So it tells us that we think we're on the right track, and we can't wait to bring you the results of this trial. So thank you for your attendance and your interest, and by all means, reach out if you have any additional questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.